Nobody is exempt from this. If you live in Baltimore City, it could be your child next. That's how real this thing is. So we're asking you to bring your young men and your young women to us.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between? I'm the right-winged angel, Oliver Mack, and in this video, we got to talk about this New York Times Twitter thread where they tried to attack guns, but actually expose something disturbing about the black community. Let's check this out. All right, so New York Times, it said guns are now the #1 killer of children in the U.S., surpassing car crashes. Gun death rates for children have been rising for years, and in 2020, guns became the leading cause of death for ages 1 to 18. Check this out. All right, so we got guns that went up to 19% of the deaths of children 1 to 18. Okay, cool. Now, let's check out a little more about what they had to say, right? Annual gun deaths. So we have 3,597 annual gun deaths for 1 through 18. Let's check this out. What? Now look how they said this. Last year, nearly 2/3 of gun deaths involved children. Children were homicide, up 73% since 2018. And while no group of American children has been spared, Black and Hispanic children are more likely to be killed. Look where Hispanic children are. Way down here. Look where Black children are. So you have less than 500 for Hispanic children, and then you have about 1,500. So 1,000 more Black children were killed by gun violence than Hispanic. But they want to put Black and Hispanic children are more likely to be killed, which is true, but they should have highlighted this, because this is far worse than this. So why is that? Why do we have all these Black children are killed by gun violence? Now, the New York Times is trying to blame it on guns. But is it guns? Can the guns shoot themselves? Does a gun load itself? Does a gun pull its own, or does a gun aim at someone? And does a gun pull its own trigger? Absolutely not. So, since this is a problem, and we know that 90% of children, 90% of Black people who are killed by people who are Black, this is showing a huge problem with gun violence in the Black community. This number right here makes up a large portion of this right here, the total. When Black people only make up 13 or 12 or 13% of the population. So 12 or 13% of the population is responsible for 1,500 of 35 or 3,600 of the deaths of children due to gun violence. That don't add up. So what's really going on? I think that's something that we need to explore. Because you can't look at this and don't see a problem. And don't see that this needs to be solved and put under a microscope to see what is really going on in the Black community, where 1,500 children were shot and killed. Versus all the other races are below 500. White people make up what? 60-something% of the population? And they're down here. Hispanic people make up, I don't know, like what, 30% of the population? Something like, I can't remember. You can look it up. But it's definitely larger than this group. But this group, 1,500 homicides. Now you can look down here, they're talking about suicide. Yes, white people, they lead in suicide. But guess what? Suicide is something that's self-inflicted. I think this is a problem too. But is this a worse problem than this? This equals innocent people. If it's children, there's some teenagers probably that get into beefs with other teenagers and they kill each other. But some of these children are just innocent bystanders that weren't doing anything. They were getting in the car with their family. I've heard stories about that. And then they get shot by a stray bullet. Some children were sitting or laying in bed in their own homes, and a bullet goes through the house and kills them, hits them in the head. So what's worse? This 1,500 or this is less than 1,000 suicides. This is self-inflicted. This is, I wanted to end my own life and I did it. I didn't involve anybody else. I did this to myself. There were no innocent bystanders hurt by this. This means somebody either decided that someone's life needed to be ended, or they were so irresponsible in trying to end someone else's life that they hit somebody else that was an innocent bystander that had nothing to do with the beef that they had. Sorry about that. My dog is barking. So I want to talk about this more. While the New York Times tries to blame guns for what's happening in our country right now with all the violence, they expose the fact that we have a huge problem in the black community with gun violence, especially regarding children. And I won't stand for that. I think as men, as women, as adult human beings, we should be protecting children, the most innocent among us. And there's a huge problem with children losing their lives, innocent children losing their lives in the black community. Now, if it's a beef between two teenagers, that's a problem too. Because why are teenagers who should be in school engaging in gun violence, engaging in beef, engaging in gang activity? This shouldn't be happening in a civilized society. We should be able to iron out our differences and work out our problems in a civilized way. And if the children are doing it, they're obviously getting it from the parents. So the parents are teaching children the worst things ever. The behavior that they're mimicking from their parents is leading to what we're seeing in our society today in the black community. And it needs to stop. There's people all over the country that feel the pain of the mothers that lose their children every day because of gun violence, because someone decides that they want to end someone else's life over the stupidest things I've ever seen. We talked about someone who shot at someone because the KFC didn't have corn. We've heard of a man who shot his son because he ate the last slice of cheesecake. We've heard of all these different stories where people get shot and killed over the dumbest things. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's young males. Young males who most likely grow up without a father. When we see this statistic right here, how high this is, and we know that the black community has the highest rate of fatherless homes than any of these other races. So you know, that's the problem. That's what's making this happen. We need fathers back in the home. Actually, we need to have children raised in stable environments. We need to have people who think about how they're going to raise their children before they have them. So that means getting married, starting a stable and putting a stable environment together for your child, getting married, get a house or a nice apartment in a good neighborhood, and then have children when you're financially stable, spiritually stable, mentally stable. All that needs to happen before you have children. But since that's not happening in the black community, now we end up with 1,500 homicides. I don't get it. I don't get why we don't talk about this stuff more. I don't understand why we use scapegoats like racism and white supremacy and all this BS, creating these boogeymans that the black community focuses on before they focus on the internal problems that are happening in our community that continue to get worse and worse and worse every single day. But it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to stop. It's time for us to band together. Black Lives Matter had all that energy, all that power, all that money that could have been used to productive things, like ending the violence that happens in black neighborhoods every single day. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. We are the murder capital of the United States. The per capita murder rate is higher than any other city in the United States. Now, why is that? I know. I grew up around a lot of black children that didn't have fathers in their lives. So I get it. I think that's the number one problem in our community. If fathers not being there. And I'm not going to sit here and say that fathers, the women, they meet a man and they have a good relationship and then she ends up getting pregnant and then the father just up and leaves. I don't want to be here anymore. A lot of times the women just sleep with a man willy-nilly and just end up pregnant. Oops. But I'm going to have this baby because I know I can siphon off the government if I have this baby. I know I can get food stamps, welfare, Section 8. I don't have to work or put them on child support. Why wouldn't I do that? So a lot of times we subsidize these fatherless homes. The government subsidizes these fatherless homes. So we keep seeing more of them because the government check is worth more to a lot of these women than having a man in the home, than having a man to help raise their children because, well, they just rely on their mother, who's also was a single mother. So it's just a cycle. It's a vicious cycle that keeps happening over and over and over again. But it's got to stop. I'm so sick and tired of seeing this stuff. I'm so sick and tired of seeing black people murder each other in the street. I'm so sick and tired of seeing kids get hit by a stray bullet because some jerk was trying to shoot at somebody else and don't know how to shoot and end up hitting an innocent child. It breaks my heart every single time. But we got to stop using these scapegoats. We got to stop subsidizing single parent homes. We got to stop doing all that and come together and fix this problem. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out. Peace.